If I told you one white powder helped build European empires, drove the Atlantic slave trade, powers today's food industry, and is wrecking a lot of people's health, you'd probably say, that's gotta be illegal. It's not. It's sugar. The stuff in your cereal bowl is the same white gold merchants once fought wars over and used enslaved people to grow. Stay with me because by the end of this video, you'll see how sugar quietly shaped world history and get one simple move to escape its modern trap. Welcome to Sketch Figures, Finance and the Economy, sketched simply. Today we're unpacking sugar, the white gold that built and broke the world. We'll go from luxury spice to slave-powered cash crop to fuel for factories to hidden ingredient in your lunch. If you like big stories hiding in everyday stuff like coffee, snacks, and soda, hit like and subscribe. And stick around to the end for a bonus insight on how to cut sugar without relying on willpower alone. Let's rewind. For most of human history, sugar was barely in the picture. People got sweetness from honey or fruit. Early sugarcane was grown in India and spread through the Middle East, but it was expensive and rare in Europe. Think spice rack flex, not daily staple. By the 1600s and 1700s, that changed fast. European powers grabbed Caribbean islands and parts of Brazil, figured out sugarcane loved the climate, and turned whole islands into sugar machines. On places like St. Kitts and Barbados, forests and food crops were cleared for cane. Sugar was so profitable they literally called it white gold. The economic logic was simple. European consumers suddenly wanted sweet tea, coffee, chocolate, and desserts. Sugarcane was incredibly valuable per acre, so landowners pushed it as hard as possible. But sugarcane is labor-intensive, and plantation owners wanted the cheapest labor they could get. That's where the horror comes in. Planters used enslaved Africans on these plantations. Sugar cultivation and processing were brutal. Long hours with machetes, boiling houses, and deadly working conditions. Historians and museums in places like Liverpool point out that the rise of sugar plantations and the rise of Caribbean slavery are basically the same story. Why go this far for a sweetener? Because the profits were wild. British records show that from the late 1600s to late 1700s, sugar consumption per person in England shot up roughly 20-fold as imports soared. Sugar didn't start as a harmless kitchen ingredient. It started as a luxury so profitable that whole colonies and millions of lives were reorganized around it. So how did sugar go from luxury for the rich to in everyone's cupboard? Enter the Atlantic triangle trade. Here's the basic loop, simplified. 1. Europe to Africa. Ships left ports like Bristol and Nantes loaded with manufactured goods, textiles, metalware, guns, alcohol. 2. Africa to Americas, the Middle Passage. Those goods were traded for enslaved Africans who were forced onto ships and transported across the Atlantic in horrific conditions. Between the 16th and 19th centuries, historians estimate about 12.5 million Africans were shipped to the Americas. Many died on the way. 3. Americas to Europe/North America. In the Caribbean and Brazil, enslaved people were forced to grow and process sugar. The ships were then loaded with sugar, molasses, and rum and sent back to Europe and North American colonies. Economically, sugar was the star of this system. It wasn't just a crop. It became part of an addictive loop. Enslaved labor grew sugarcane. Sugarcane made molasses. Molasses made rum. Rum and European goods bought more enslaved people. Think of it like a very dark version of a loyalty program. The more sugar Europe consumed, the more profitable plantations became, and the more incentives there were to expand slavery and land grabs. For European merchants, this was a money machine. One round trip around the triangle could take about a year. But if it went well, every leg of the journey involved buying low and selling high. Of course, the costs, the lives and freedom of millions of Africans and indigenous people, were not on the ledger. That's the ugly truth behind cheap sweetness. Someone, somewhere, was paying in a currency you don't see on the price tag. Sugar supercharged the Atlantic economy, but the boom was built on enslaved labor and violence. not some magical free profit. If this kind of follow the money history helps you see your food differently, tap like and subscribe. It tells the algorithm to serve this to more curious brains. Fast forward to the 1800s. The slave trade is slowly being abolished in different empires, but sugar isn't going away. It's too useful. Two big changes happen. 1. Beet sugar breaks the monopoly. When wars and blockades cut Europe off from Caribbean cane sugar, scientists and rulers started asking, can we make sugar at home? In 1801, Franz Karl Achard opened the first beet sugar factory in what's now Poland. Napoleon pushed sugar beet farming in France during the Napoleonic Wars to escape British control of cane sugar. By around 1880, more than half of the world's sugar came from sugar beets, much of it in Europe. Sugar becomes cheaper and more available. You no longer need tropical colonies to have a sweet tooth. 2. Sugar plus tea plus factories equals industrial energy drink. Anthropologist Sidney Mintz in Sweetness and Power argues that sugar helped power the Industrial Revolution. Factory workers needed quick, cheap calories to get through long shifts. Tea with sugar and a bit of bread or jam became the original budget energy snack. Cheap, fast, and portable. As sugar got cheaper, per-person consumption kept climbing across Europe and North America. It moved from rich people's dessert tables into everyday life, in jam, biscuits, chocolate bars, and sweetened tea. Fast forward again to the 20th century, and a new twist appears: high fructose corn syrup, HFCS. In the 1960s and 70s, scientists figured out how to turn cheap American corn into a super sweet syrup. By the early 1980s, it was cheaper than cane sugar in the U.S., thanks to sugar tariffs and corn subsidies. HFCS use in the U.S. jumped more than tenfold between 1970 and 1990, and soda giants like Coca-Cola and Pepsi switched to it around 1984 to cut costs. For companies, the math was simple. Sweet stuff sells, subsidies make it cheap, and liquid sweetener is easy to pump into everything: sodas, sauces, bread, snacks. Once sugar and its cousins got industrialized, they became the perfect fuel, not just for workers, but for the entire processed food business model. Here's where the story hits your body. Today, the average person worldwide eats around 20 to 24 kilograms of sugar per year. But in wealthier countries, that can be 40 to 50 kilograms or more. In the U.S., per-person sugar and sweetener consumption is still around 120 pounds a year, even after some recent declines. Health agencies are not thrilled. The World Health Organization, WHO, and groups like the NHS in the UK say, try to keep free sugars, added sugars plus honey, syrups, juice, under 10% of your daily calories, and ideally under 5%. For a typical adult, that's roughly 25 to 30 grams a day, about 6 to 7 teaspoons. Many people are eating double that without realizing it. Why do they care so much? Because a mountain of research links high sugar intake, especially from sugary drinks, to higher risk of obesity and weight gain, type 2, diabetes, tooth decay, and higher risk of heart disease when it's part of an overall high-calorie, ultra-processed diet. One 2020 study in Nature Medicine estimated that sugary drinks alone were linked to about 2.2 million new cases of type 2 diabetes in a single year, roughly 1 in 6 new cases globally. Sugar isn't poison in tiny amounts, and it's not the only factor. Overall diet, exercise, sleep, stress, genetics all matter. But the combination of very cheap sugar, products engineered to be hyper-palatable, and portion sizes that quietly grew over decades creates a world where many people consume way more sugar than they realize. We went from sugar as life-saving calories in hard times to sugar as a stealth health risk when it's everywhere, all the time. If we know sugar can be a problem, why is it so hard to cut back? This is where psychology crashes into economics. Authors like Richard Thaler and Cass Sunstein in Nudge talk about choice architecture. The way our environment is set up nudges us into certain decisions without us noticing. Look at your food environment. sugary drinks at eye level in fridges, candy at the checkout, breakfast cereals with cartoon characters, and 3 to 4 teaspoons of sugar per serving. Low-fat foods that quietly add sugar to keep the taste. The economic logic is brutal and simple. Sugar is cheap per calorie. It makes food taste good. It keeps you coming back. Behaviorally, we're wired for present bias. We care more about yum now than health 10 years from now. Morgan Housel, in The Psychology of Money, points out that in many areas of life, behavior beats math. Knowing the numbers doesn't automatically change habits. Sugar is a textbook example. So how do you escape the trap without becoming that person who weighs a grape? Here's one practical move that gives you a big bang for your effort. Treat sugary drinks as a treat, not a default. Make water, tea, or coffee without sugar your everyday drink. Keep soda, energy drinks, and super sweet coffees as weekend or special occasion items. Why drinks? They're one of the biggest sources of added sugar in many countries. Your brain doesn't register liquid calories as well as solid food, so it's easy to overdo it. This isn't personalized medical advice, just a low-friction rule that lines up with what major health organizations are recommending and what the data on sugary drinks plus diabetes risk is shouting at us. The modern sugar trap is less about personal weakness and more about an environment designed to oversweeten everything. So change the environment where you can, starting with what you drink. Let's zoom out and tie this together. Sugar shows how one cheap ingredient can reshape empires, diets, and health. Quick rewind. Rise. Sugar began as a rare luxury, then white gold grown on brutal Caribbean plantations. Peak. It fueled the Atlantic Triangle trade, powered industrial workers, and exploded into modern processed foods and sodas. Fallout. Now we're dealing with obesity, diabetes, and a food environment that makes too much sugar the default, not the exception. Today, this means sugar isn't just a taste issue. It's an economic and health system story that still shapes what's on your plate. One practical move: swap sugary drinks for mostly water or unsweetened drinks and treat the sweet stuff like dessert, not background noise. Mindset shift. Instead of blaming yourself, notice the design, packaging, pricing, placement, and make small changes that work with your real life, not against it. If this helped you see sugar differently, from slave plantations to soda aisles, hit subscribe and tap the bell so you don't miss the next breakdown. For a follow-on video, check out our last one on the real reason coffee became the world's most traded commodity. This video is for education only and isn't financial advice.